The old satellite drifted silently in the dark, forgotten by time and ignored by all modern systems. It had not sent a signal in over 100 years. But now, suddenly, it beeped once, then twice. Then it began to hum a strange sound no one had heard before, deep inside the human space agency. An alert flashed on a dusty terminal. The technician who saw it blinked in surprise, then called his superior, within minutes. A message had been sent to Dr. Ellen Rayner. She was not just any archaeologist. She was the best in the field of ancient human history. Ellen stood at her small lab on Mars, working on a broken artifact from a forgotten war. Her assistant rushed in, face pale. "Doctor, the signal." "It's human," he whispered. Ellen looked up, confused. "That satellite was launched before Earth had space travel," she said. "That's impossible." The next day, Ellen was inside a fast transport ship headed for Luna Outpost 9. That's where the signal came from. She watched the decoded message again and again. It wasn't just a beep. It was a pattern, like a song, and it felt familiar, but she couldn't explain why. When she arrived, the moon base looked abandoned. Dust covered everything, lights flickered, and there was no welcoming crew, only silence. "Why does this place feel like a grave?" her assistant asked. Ellen didn't answer. Her heart was beating faster than usual, and she didn't know why. They walked into the main chamber, where the signal had been received. At the center of the room was a large circular platform, and on it, an old console. Cracked and worn but glowing faintly, carved into the stone beneath, it were symbols. Not alien, but ancient human. Ellen knelt down, brushing the dust away with shaking fingers. "I've seen this before," she whispered, "in cave paintings on Earth." But those caves had been dated to over 200,000 years ago, long before humans had any technology. Suddenly, the lights went out, total darkness. Then a cold wind passed through the chamber, even though there was no airflow. A low sound echoed like someone whispering her name. Her assistant turned on a flashlight, but it flickered badly. They heard footsteps, slow and heavy, walking just outside the room. But the security camera showed nothing. They weren't alone, despite the fear. Ellen followed the whispers. They led her to a locked door deep underground, marked Restricted Level 0. No one had opened that door in 100 years. Her ID didn't work, but the moment she touched the panel, the door opened on its own. Inside was complete darkness and a staircase leading down. Each step felt colder than the last. The air smelled old, metallic and thick with dust. At the bottom, she found something that didn't belong on a moon base. A stone wall huge, covered in carvings and golden letters. The same language as before, but this time, a single sentence stood out clearly. "We are the first, and we will return." Her assistant touched the wall and gasped. "It's warm," he said. Pulling back his hand quickly, Ellen moved closer. And as she did, the wall began to glow. It showed stars, planets, and then Earth. But Earth didn't look like now. It had 3 moons, glowing cities in the oceans, and a ring of satellites around it like a crown. "What is this?" she whispered. Then the ground shook, and something behind the wall clicked open. A hidden door, slowly sliding back, revealing a dark tunnel with stairs going even deeper. Before they could react, the signal returned louder this time, echoing through every speaker on the base. And this time, there was a voice. "Ellen Rayner. You have awakened the memory," it said. She looked at her assistant in shock. "How does it know my name?" Her hands trembled. She didn't know what she had just opened. But something inside her heart told her this was not the beginning of a discovery. It was the return of something long forgotten. Not alien but human. Outside, the stars twinkled quietly, unaware that history was about to be rewritten, because humanity's past had just come back to life. The tunnel felt like it went on forever. Each step echoed behind them, as if someone else was walking close by. Ellen held the flashlight tight, her knuckles white from the pressure. Her assistant, Kaylin, stayed right behind her. Not saying a word, the air grew heavier. as if they were walking into a place that didn't want to be disturbed. The walls were smooth stone, not built by machines, but carved by hand, massive, perfect, and ancient. Some of the symbols glowed faintly as they passed, reacting to their presence. The light from her flashlight began to flicker again. Callan stopped, eyes wide. "Did you hear that?" he whispered. Ellen turned to him. A soft hum was rising in the air, like the beginning of a song, one with no melody, just a vibration deep in their bones. Suddenly, they stepped into a huge underground chamber. At its center stood a sealed vault door, twice the height of a man, covered in the same markings as before. But one thing was different now. There were handprints carved into the center of the door, and they were human, not alien, not animal, but human. Fresh air flowed from a tiny crack at the top of the vault, like it had been breathing silently this whole time. As they moved closer, Ellen felt a tug in her chest. Not painful, but strong. She raised her hand slowly and pressed her palm against the center print. The stone was cold, but then it warmed under her touch. A low sound filled the chamber as the vault door began to shift, grinding loudly against stone. It opened inward, revealing a massive room filled with old lights that turned on by themselves. They stepped inside, blinking in shock. What they saw didn't make sense. Rows and rows of floating glass orbs, each showing a different planet. Some showed green worlds with 3 suns, others showed red deserts and giant space structures. But one orb floated closer to Ellen, glowing brighter than the rest. Inside it was Earth, but not the Earth they knew. It had no nations, no borders, only one symbol burning across the oceans, a circle with a line through it. She had seen that symbol before, carved into the broken helmet found on Mars last year. They had thought it was a joke, an artist's imagination. But now it was here again, watching her. The orb pulsed once, and a soft voice echoed in the room, not from speakers, but from the walls themselves. "You have seen the memory that the voice said calmly, but do you remember the warning?" Ellen stepped back, heart pounding. "I don't know what this is," she said aloud, her voice shaking. But the room responded anyway. "You will," the voice said. In time, behind them, Callan screamed. Ellen turned just in time to see him being pulled backward by some invisible force. She ran, grabbing his arm, trying to hold on. But his body twisted strangely and vanished into thin air, leaving only a circle of glowing ash where he had stood. On the floor, burned into the metal, was a single word: "Remember." Ellen fell to her knees, her breath sharp and uneven. Tears stung her eyes, but she didn't cry. She just stared at the glowing word, knowing Callan was gone. But she also knew she couldn't leave. Something had chosen her, something old, something human, and it wanted her to keep going. The orb near her started spinning, faster and faster, until it exploded with light. When the light faded, she wasn't in the room anymore. She was standing in a massive city of glass and gold, floating above clouds. People walked around her, dressed in armor and robes, talking in a language she didn't understand, but somehow she still knew what they were saying. They called her Commander and bowed as she passed, but she wasn't moving, she was only watching. It was a memory not hers, but someone else's from long ago. She saw warships in the sky, massive fleets with Earth symbols, then fire and screams and betrayal. The memory ended, and Ellen collapsed on the floor of the vault, gasping for air. She felt like she had been gone for hours, but only seconds had passed. Something had changed inside her. She couldn't explain it, but she remembered parts of the vision battle plans, names of systems long forgotten, and a promise made long ago: "We will return." As she stood still shaking, the vault door closed behind her with a loud slam. She was now locked inside, but she was no longer afraid. This wasn't just a discovery, this was a message, and someone out there didn't want it shared. Ellen looked up at the floating orbs, still glowing gently. One of them began blinking slowly, showing a star system deep in alien space. Below it, 3 words appeared in old human script. The last key. She had to go there, even if it cost. Her everything, because whatever had been buried was never truly dead, and now it was waking up. Ellen wasn't alone in the vault, though she couldn't see anyone. She felt eyes on her, cold, ancient, and patient. Something in the shadows watched her every move. The glowing orbs around her had gone dim, but one still blinked with steady rhythm. It pulsed like a heartbeat, and every pulse felt like it was calling her name. She moved closer, drawn not by curiosity, but by something deeper. Something inside her wanted answers. Something else already knew them. The blinking orb suddenly floated up and spun fast, releasing a beam of light. A shape appeared inside the light, tall, thin, and not human. It was an alien, dressed in long black robes with symbols glowing on its chest, but it didn't feel hostile. It felt reverent. "I have waited a long time," the figure said, its voice soft but clear. Its mouth didn't move, but the words echoed in her mind. "You are the first to awaken the memory in over 10,000 cycles." Ellen stepped back, unsure if she was dreaming or hallucinating. "Who are you?" she asked. The alien bowed low, its head touching the floor. "I am Tsar, keeper of the forgotten truth," it said. "And you, Ellen Rayner, are the key we lost." Her breath caught in her throat. "How do you know my name?" Sir didn't answer right away. Instead, it raised one arm and pointed to a nearby wall. Symbols lit up across the stone one by one, forming pictures. She saw Earth, ships, galaxies, and then a face, her face etched into stone with the title, Commander Ellen First Star. She shook her head, stepping back in disbelief. "That's not me. I'm just an archaeologist," she said, voice trembling. But Sia only nodded slowly. "That is what you believe now," it replied. "But your blood remembers." The alien moved toward her and held out a small device. It was shaped like a spiral and glowed gently in his hands. "This belonged to you long ago," it said. "It may help you remember more." Ellen took the device, and the moment her fingers touched it, a surge of heat ran up her arm. Visions flashed in her mind, stars exploding, battles in deep space, cities being swallowed by fire. She saw herself in armor, shouting orders, leading humans and aliens alike into war. Then everything went black and she collapsed. When she opened her eyes, she was still in the vault, kneeling beside her. "You are not ready for the full truth," he said gently, "but we don't have time to wait." So told her about a secret, buried for ages. Long ago, humans ruled not just Earth, but the stars. They were known as the first ones, powerful, wise, and feared. But one day, they vanished, leaving behind broken machines, dead planets, and scattered clues. No one knew why they disappeared, only that it happened fast and without warning. "You were one of them," So said quietly, "one of the few who chose to sleep, to hide until the right time." Ellen felt cold all over. "If that's true, then why now? Why me?" So lowered his head, "Because the others have begun to wake too. But not all remember who they were." Before she could ask more, the orb near them cracked with a loud snap. A red beam shot into the air, blinking rapidly. Tsar's eyes widened. "They found us," he said. "Who?" Ellen asked, fear returning to her chest. "The ones who ended the first ones," he replied. "They're still hunting us." Suddenly, alarm screamed across the vault, even though it hadn't made a sound in centuries. The entrance behind them began to seal itself, locking with heavy steel plates. "You must leave this place," Sir said, handing her the spiral device. "Find the lost star system before they do." Ellen nodded. Even though her mind was spinning, Tsar reached toward the wall and opened a hidden door, leading into a narrow escape tunnel. As she turned to leave, she looked back one last time. Tsar stood in the vault, arms outstretched, his body glowing with strange blue light. "Go, Commander," he said one last time. "We will meet again." In the system of echoes, the door slammed shut behind her, and everything went dark. She ran through the narrow tunnel, chased by echoes of her own racing heartbeat. Outside, her ship was waiting, still powered and untouched. She climbed in and set course for the coordinates Cecilia gave her, a place deep in alien space marked only by one name in the old human language, Solara Prime, as the stars passed by. Outside her window, Ellen didn't feel like a scientist anymore. She felt like something was opening inside her, piece by piece, not memories, instincts. She didn't know what Solara Prime held, but deep inside, she knew. It was only the beginning, asterisk. Stars outside her window seemed to move slower than before. Ellen stared at them without blinking, her hands resting on the controls. Something deep inside her felt heavy, like a storm was building quietly under her skin. She didn't remember being a commander, or leading fleets, or giving orders, but each time she closed her eyes, she saw flashes ships shaped like swords, burning skies, and voices calling her name in languages she didn't know. The ship's AI spoke suddenly, breaking the silence. Approaching Solara Prime, it said. Ellen leaned forward, trying to catch her first glimpse of the ancient system. But what she saw made her heart freeze. Solara Prime didn't look like a forgotten place. It was surrounded by rings of broken ships, twisted metal, and dead satellites, and above it all floated a black sphere the size of a small moon. Pulsing slowly like it was alive, she had seen that shape before, in her dreams. Always at the end of the world, she brought the ship into a lower orbit, carefully passing through the debris. But as she approached the planet's surface, her scanners picked up movement. Something was flying below, fast and quiet. She turned the camera, expecting drones or machines. But what she saw made her breath catch. It was a child, a small figure running across a wide plain, with something glowing in her hand. No ship, no vehicle, no protection from the wind. Just a child alive. Ellen didn't hesitate. She landed the ship and stepped out, the dry air hitting her face like a slap. The ground was covered in cracked glass and old metal bones, remains of something massive that once stood there. She followed the tracks the child had left, each step echoing in the wind like a whisper. It didn't take long to find her. The girl was sitting near a broken monument, staring up at the sky. Her skin was pale, her eyes glowing faint blue in her hands. She held a stone device, exactly like the one Seer had given Ellen. The girl looked up, calm and unafraid. "You're late," she said in perfect human English. Ellen froze. "Who are you?" she asked slowly. The girl tilted her head. "I don't remember my name," she said, "but I remember you." Ellen stepped closer, her heart beating fast. "How do you know me?" The girl smiled sadly. "I was made to wait here for you," she said. "I've waited many lifetimes." She handed Ellen the stone device, which lit up instantly. Ellen saw the same vision again, but this time something new. A council room filled with humans. Some old, some young, all wearing the same symbol. She stood at the center, placing a hand on the shoulder of a small girl. That girl, the same one in front of her now. Ellen had ordered her to stay behind, to wait. "I don't know what's happening to me," Ellen whispered. The girl stood up and touched Ellen's chest gently. "You were broken into pieces and scattered," she said. "But every part of you is waking now." Before Ellen could respond, a loud sound filled the air, a deep, cold screech that shook the ground. The sky turned darker, and shadows moved above. Black drones, dozens of them, flying silently toward them like birds made of knives. Ellen grabbed the girl's hand. "We have to go," she said. They ran back toward the ship, the wind howling louder. The drones followed, but didn't fire. They just watched, recording, waiting inside the ship. The girl sat down calmly. "They won't kill us," she said. "Not yet." Ellen started the engines and pulled the ship into the sky. As they rose above the clouds, the girl looked back and whispered, "They're afraid of what you'll become." Ellen turned the ship toward the nearest starport in neutral space. They needed help. They needed someone who could explain what the first ones had left behind. The girl pointed to a location on the map, an asteroid field in the middle of nowhere. "There's someone hiding there," she said. "An old one," who never forgot you. As the stars stretched around them, Ellen looked at the girl. What am I really? She asked. The child smiled faintly. You are the storm they tried to bury, she said. But the ground still remembers the thunder. The ship vanished into warp, and far behind them, in the black sphere above Solara Prime, red lights began to blink. A cold voice echoed inside the ancient machine. She has awakened, it said. Begin the hunt. The asteroid was singing, not in sound but in feeling. As Jason's ship approached the broken rock field, the instruments didn't beep or warn. Instead, the lights flickered in rhythm, like the ship itself was humming along with the strange energy in space. Nalia stood near the viewport, her eyes glowing slightly under the red emergency lights. This is where they sent him, she whispered. After the collapse. Jason gripped the controls tighter. Sent who? She turned toward him slowly, her voice flat and careful. The one they feared more than the war itself. The ship came to a halt near a massive asteroid shaped like a broken crown. It had no docking station, no entry point, just one single symbol glowing on its side, the same mark that had followed Jason since the beginning. He stepped out in silence, feeling something deep in the stone calling to him. The second his boots touched the surface, the rock beneath his feet shifted. A platform rose from the stone, forming stairs as if the asteroid was waking up just for him. With every step, memories flashed behind his eyes. He saw fire, saw galaxies twisting, saw hands pulling stars together, but most of all he saw a face, a man chained in light, screaming without sound. At the bottom of the platform was a chamber, frozen in time. In the center, floating above a shattered throne, hung a key knot. Metal, not crystal. It looked like it was made of light and bone. Jason reached for it slowly, and the moment he touched it, the entire asteroid trembled. Then the voice came, not a whisper like before, but a roar. You dare return here, bearer of silence. Jason stumbled back, but the key stayed in his hand, pulsing. I don't know who I was, he said aloud. The air bent around him, and from the shadows stepped a man. Tall, pale, with eyes like suns. He wore no armor, no crown. But the room obeyed him like a loyal soldier. You were the one who locked me away, the man said. You ordered my sleep. Jason looked at him with wide eyes. Why? He asked. The man smiled, not with joy, but with pain. Because I would not let Earth burn, he said, even when the others said it must. Nalia stepped forward, speaking a word Jason didn't understand. The man looked at her and nodded slowly. You speak the tongue of the half-born, he said. You are the last of the recorders. He turned back to Jason. I am Kale, he said. And I was your shadow. Kale walked to the broken throne and picked up a piece of shattered metal. You were the light, he said, holding it out to Jason. And I was the blade that followed. He dropped it to the ground. Now the galaxy burns again, and you've come to find me. Jason held the key up. I came because the heart woke me, he said. Because the past is breaking through. Kale studied him, then laughed softly. You still don't understand, he said. It wasn't just about hiding the truth. You were trying to stop something older than memory itself. Suddenly, the chamber shook. A red light flashed through the walls. Nalia turned sharply, scanning the darkness. They found us, she said. The ones who hunt memory. Jason turned to Kale. We need you, he said. We can't fight this without you. Kale looked at the broken throne once more, then back at Jason. Then take this, he said, pulling a shard from the floor. It melted in his hand, shaping itself into a strange weapon, part sword, part staff. You were once my commander, Kale said. But this time, I follow you. By choice. They raced back up the platform, the asteroid groaning as if alive. Outside, dark ships were already circling, their lights scanning the surface like insects searching for prey. Jason raised the weapon, and the key in his hand glowed brighter. A pulse of energy burst outward, knocking the enemy ships away like leaves in a storm. Kale smiled as he watched. Still inside you, he said. The fire that made empires kneel. They escaped just as the asteroid collapsed behind them, folding in on itself until it vanished from space. Jason sat in silence as the stars passed by. Cale stood behind him, arms crossed. "You have more to wake," he said. "More truths buried, more weapons sleeping." Jason nodded. "The past isn't gone," he whispered. "It was only waiting." And far away, in the dark, a voice whispered back, "So were we." Asterisk, the voice in Jason's mind was not his own. It whispered while he slept, while he blinked. Even when no one else was speaking, it spoke in a language he had never learned, yet somehow understood. At first, he thought it was memory. But now he wasn't sure if it was something inside him, or something trying to get out. They had landed on a hidden station carved inside an icy moon. It wasn't on any map, and no signal reached it. The old markings on the walls glowed faintly, as if they had been waiting for Jason's return. The crew, Cale, Nalia, and 2 human historians from Earth walked in silence, each of them sensing that this place held secrets no one should touch. As they passed through narrow corridors, a door opened on its own. Inside was a black room lit only by a single white chair in the center. Jason stepped forward, drawn by something deep in his chest. The others stayed back, watching carefully. He sat in the chair without thinking, and the door closed behind him. Darkness surrounded him, but it was not empty. He could feel heat, pressure, and movement all around him. Then his eyes opened, but they weren't his. He was looking through someone else's eyes. He saw Cale years younger, standing beside a burning city in space. He saw Nalia's face among thousands of prisoners, her skin dull, her eyes hollow. He saw himself not as Jason, but as the man from the first ones, commanding fleets, rewriting memories, ordering betrayals in silence. Jason tried to pull back, but the vision gripped him tighter. Then came the worst memory one he had never seen before. A room full of children, each one linked to a glowing crystal. And standing above them was himself, smiling. Jason screamed, but there was no sound. The memory shattered, and he was thrown out of the chair, gasping on the cold metal floor. Cale rushed in, pulling him up. "What did you see?" he asked sharply. Jason looked up, sweat pouring down his face. I betrayed us all," he whispered. "Not once." Over and over, Nalia stepped inside, holding a small device in her hand. "We found this," she said, hidden in the wall behind the chair. She handed it to Jason, and the moment it touched his skin, it began to glow. A soft voice came from it, calm and familiar. "Phase 3, confirming memory fragment control." Cale's eyes narrowed. "That's not a tool," he growled. "It's a limiter." Jason looked at him, confused. Cale pointed at the device. "They placed that inside you," he said, "to keep the truth locked." Jason's hands trembled. "You mean I've been carrying my own prison?" Cale nodded slowly. "Whoever you once were," he said, "you were dangerous enough to fear. They sealed your memories, buried your power, and built fake layers over you." Jason stared at the glowing device. It pulsed faster now. As if scared, he stood, holding it tight, and looked at the others. "Then it's time I stop hiding from myself," before anyone could stop him. He crushed the device in his hand. It sparked, hissed, and went dark. The moment it died, a wave of energy burst from Jason's chest. Cale and Nalia were thrown backward, the walls flickering with ancient symbols. Jason fell to his knees, gasping, but not in pain. He remembered everything. War, the promise, the betrayal, the great lie told to all of humanity. He remembered the true reason Earth had been forced into forgetting. Because the enemy had never been defeated, it had been hidden inside the humans themselves. Jason stood, eyes glowing white. "I know what we were hiding," he said. Cale slowly stood, watching him with a mix of awe and fear. "And?" Cale asked. Jason turned toward them. "We weren't protecting the galaxy from the truth," he said. "We were protecting the galaxy from us." Outside the station, the stars shifted unnaturally. Dozens of old-world beacons blinked to Life, forming a ring around the moon. The sky was no longer empty, it was watching. And from the void came the first of the old ones, silent, ancient machines with no faces. They had waited long enough. The moment Jason remembered, they began to awaken too. The stars were no longer quiet, they whispered now. Old voices humming across every channel, every system, every corner of space. People all over Earth stopped in the streets, staring at the sky. They didn't know why, but something inside them stirred, something ancient, something human. Jason stood at the base of the mountain where the final signal pulsed beneath the earth. The others stood behind him, Kale, Nalia, and what was left of the crew. The air was still, like the planet was holding its breath. No birds, no wind, no sound. Only the deep thrum of something waking up beneath the ground. He stepped forward, the dirt cracking under his feet. Then the mountain opened, not like rock breaking, but like a door remembering how to move. Inside was a staircase of light, and below it, the throne, not a seat, but a machine, pulsing with raw memory. It had waited for one thing. For one voice, Jason's. He walked toward it slowly, every step shaking the sky. The 3 keys inside him began to glow, lifting from his chest like orbs of living fire. The throne responded, its sides opening, revealing endless strands of energy, curling like vines in the air. The moment he sat, the machine closed around him. But he did not vanish, he became seen. A wave of energy exploded across the planet. Suddenly, every satellite, every buried vault, every forgotten ship began to wake. Holograms appeared in every city, showing images of ancient humans, strong, proud, united with alien allies. Children began speaking words they had never heard before. The old language, the first tongue, Earth remembered. And with that memory, the galaxy changed. Jason's voice echoed through space, not as a broadcast, but as a feeling. I am Jason, he said. But I am also commander of the first ones. We built the stars, we fell. We erased ourselves to protect all life. But the enemy we feared never left. Above Earth, cracks opened in the sky. Not in the atmosphere, but in space itself. Ships began to fall through black, massive, silent, shaped like teeth and claws. The old enemy, the ones who had twisted the last war, the ones who whispered in human minds and poisoned their past. Kale raised his weapon, but Jason's voice spoke again. Wait, Jason stood now, not bound to the throne. It had become part of him. He raised one hand toward the sky, and the ancient fleets rose from Earth's oceans and moons. Thousands of ships, forgotten by time, powered by memory, armed with weapons not seen in ages. One by one, they flew to meet the dark invaders. But Jason didn't attack. Instead, he sent out a message in the enemy's own tongue. I remember you, he said, and I forgive you. For a long moment, nothing moved. Then, the enemy ships paused, confused, their formation breaking. They had expected war. They had prepared for fire. But they did not understand mercy, not from humans. A single enemy ship broke away and lowered itself to Earth's surface. From it stepped a figure, tall and thin, with empty eyes. It knelt before Jason. Not in surrender, but in recognition. You changed, it said. Jason nodded. We all must. The war never happened. Not this time. Instead, the old enemy faded, not in defeat, but in peace. Their ships retreated into the stars, silent, and for the first time free. The people of Earth looked up. They had seen destruction before, but never this kind of power, gentle and strong. Jason turned to his people, no longer just a scientist or a name in secret files. He was a bridge between what was and what would be. He spoke one last time, not as a commander, but as a guide. We are not gods, he said. We are not monsters. We are memory, and we are choice. And with that, he vanished, not in light, not in flame, but in wind. Some say he still watches from the stars. Others say he walks among ruins, keeping the throne safe, but all remember him, and because of that, humanity will never forget again. The past had returned, but this time, it didn't come to haunt, it came to heal.